Hi everyone. I just thought I'd give people some time to log in. So welcome to this Pontas Agency live pitch session. I hope you can all see and hear me clearly. If you need to, you can just drop a note in the chat, which is open, and just let me know if there are any issues. But hopefully, we are all up and running. So it's lovely to see you. So for those of you who don't know me, I'm Carla. I'm a Pontas Agency agent based out of Paris, France, and my agenting colleagues, so Anna, of course, founder of Pontas Agency, and Clara, are based over in Barcelona. And yes, Carla and Clara are highly confusing. So if you see our two names, our two email addresses in your inbox, it's not a mistake. There are two of us. And at least this session will allow you to put a face to a name. So I am Carla. So I'm a primary agent for Pontus's English and French language authors, and I also work on translation rights across the list and across territories as necessary. What I'm going to try and do is keep this short and focused for you, as I know you've all got a lot on pre-Frankfurt. So I'll present two main hot titles on our hot list for this Frankfurt Book Fair, and then I'll give you a brief rundown and a recap on a selection of other key titles which have either just come out or are forthcoming in early 2026. As always, if you have any questions, again, there is the chat, or I'll be sending an email recap after this. So by all means, do get in touch and request any other information or reading materials. So as you know, of course, many of you know Pontus well now, but for over 30 years, Pontus has been championing global majority voices and helping them to reach, as many international readers as possible, as well as reaching the big and the small screen. And within that category, we of course work across four languages, so English, French, Spanish, and Catalan, and authors writing in those languages who are based or who live internationally across the world. And this ethos really hasn't changed over the last few decades, even as world events evolve, literary trends, book markets evolve. We still think this is, the heart of everything that we do. And really, I think the hot list today just speaks to that in terms of the breadth and the variety of titles and authors that we represent. I think our two highlighted titles are particularly interesting because they're both questioning and exploring the world today, but they're doing it in completely different ways. So one novel really takes us into history and the imaginary, and the other is contemporary and incredibly deeply realistic. But both of those are looking to reach and educate and enthrall readers through incredible storytelling. And so that really is what Pontus and Anna's vision is all about. So, with that in mind, I am very pleased to introduce you to debut author Teresa Hotel. You can see that here. So this was a deal we closed just before the summer. We had a very swift preempt from Algonquin, Little Brown US, for her debut novel, Dust. And UK rights are also now with Abacus, so Little Brown UK, and Claire Smith is the publisher there. Dust will be edited by Maddie Jones, Algonquin editor, who also edits authors like Bora Chung. And I think that's a really key piece of information to have in mind because this gives a clear idea of the positioning of this novel. Algonquin publish elevated fiction, but then there are also, authors like Bora Chung and Teresa who will incorporate tropes from other genres, from horror, from fantasy, as well as incredibly impressive, controlled, mastered writing and storytelling. So that really gives you a feel for how in the English language market they are going to be presenting this novel. So I hope you are now all intrigued by that presentation of the novel. So Teresa was born in Taiwan, but she grew up in Oklahoma in the US. And for European publishers, a key piece of information also is that she now lives in Barcelona. And this novel is inspired partly by her childhood growing up in Oklahoma and a specific period of American history, which was 1930s Dust Bowl. And this was a phenomenon that Teresa explained to me they learned about in school. As a Brit growing up in Britain, we did not have this in our history lessons, but she said it was very much a part of their curriculum was learning about this period in which there were extreme dust forms, storms, which really transformed the landscape overnight and led to, you can now see photographs of the period, very uncanny, eerie atmosphere of this dust that just covered the sky and the landscape and essentially reduced the Great Plains to a desert. And so Teresa has always been fascinated by this very evocative, otherworldly real piece of American history. The other influence and inspiration she had was herself growing up in a small town in Oklahoma in the 1990s, growing up with a religious background, very religious education, and the constraints and also the questions that could provoke for a young person living in a town of that sort. And so she took all of these inspirations and has turned it brilliantly into this novel, Dust. So Dust is set in an altered 1930s Oklahoma Dust Bowl. And it is set against the backdrop of real life events like the Great Depression, like the Chinese Exclusion Act, the suppression of minority and queer rights. But in Teresa's 1930s Oklahoma, the dust storms have led to people being able to see otherworldly, strange beings that come to be called duskin. Some of them float, some of them are enormous, some of them are small, some of them resemble sort of jellyfish type beings. Um, and the important thing as well is that not everybody can see them. So the people who can see these creatures are often accused of simply superstition or fraud or heresy or even madness by those who can't see them. And so, into this context, you have two main characters: Draper, who is a young man who is a renowned and successful dust doctor. Dust doctors were people who would crisscross and travel across the plains, tracking and researching these duskin. And it's a perilous profession because anybody that comes into contact with a duskin or sights one or is very near to one loses all sense of direction, but also rational thinking, thought. And so the dust doctors are people who have managed to survive and research these creatures without being harmed. And so Draper is one of the very best, and he is contacted by an anonymous letter that has been sent from Boise City, which is a small town in the middle of the Dust Bowl that seems to be particularly affected by these duskin sightings. And someone has written a letter to him asking for his help. And on arrival in Boise City, Draper meets the other main character in this novel, who is Bobby Sue, a young 25-year-old, half American, half Chinese, white passing schoolteacher. She can't see the duskin, but she sees the effects of these creatures on the school children in her care who seem to be able to communicate with them. And so she, unlike other people in the community, is open to taking that leap of faith, faith being, in all of the sense of the term, being one of the very key themes in this novel, taking that leap of faith and wanting to help Draper um, in this investigation into these duskin and trying to help save her town and her neighbors, her friends and her family. Um, and so this research and really fight to understand the duskin is up against another other groups of people who are appropriating this phenomenon and this danger for their own means. So within the town, there are various characters and groups, but notably a very skeptical mayor who he can't, again, can't see the dusk in himself and is very skeptical as to the existence of these creatures. And also two powerful church founders who, again, very much use this phenomenon to, for their own ends and to really create what we're seeing now more and more, of course, in the US, but all over the world, is that echo chamber effect of people coming together and remaining very much set in their own beliefs. And I think Teresa has really crystallized that whole concept in the fact that, these duskin that appear cannot be seen by everybody. So it really is a leap of faith on the part of people who can't see to really understand and to accept that, that there are people who can research and help them, but they have to take that leap of faith. So it really is, on one level, you have this storyline, and it's there's this page turner. It's tense. It's grotesque in places. It's incredibly poetic in others, and it really does, I think, speak to now the world as it is today, but really taking us, as I said at the beginning, somewhere completely different into history, but also completely, imagined history from Teresa. And so, we've been pitching it. It's for fans, it's for readers of The Chosen and the Beautiful. It's Jeff Vandermeer's Annihilation. It's R.F. Kuang's Babel. That kind of readership. So Resume Dust is an historical novel. It's a fantasy novel. There is horror, there is tragedy, and there is a love story quite unlike any other at its heart. It really is very unique, and I would love for as many of you as possible to read it. I think a number of you have it already. Please dive in and take a look, and I think you'll see very quickly what I mean. At the moment, we've sold Russian translation rights. All other translation rights are available, and film and TV rights are also available. This novel is vivid, evocative. It would make an absolutely fantastic adaptation on the screen. So do go ahead and read it as soon as possible. And I would love to know what a lot of you, as many of you as possible think. So that is Teresa Hotel's Dust. Second hot title for Frankfurt this year is Farouk Karimi. Farouk is a Dutch Afghan writer based in the Netherlands and published by Meridian in the Netherlands. It's Nelleke Gale who publishes her, and we are representing rights on behalf of Meridian. And so we are representing Farouk's new novel, In My Eyes I Carry Clouds. And this has had, I'm going to show you this beautiful cover, which is here. Here we go. This has had an absolutely fantastic reception in the Netherlands. Press, media coverage has been astounding. A total 10,000 copy print run so far and counting. So this is really clearly spoken to Dutch readers, and I will explain why I think it could also speak to many, many other readers as well. So this is very much inspired by the author's personal story. So Farouk, like her character, was born in Afghanistan and fled the war and moved as a refugee to the Netherlands. She trained at medical school and is now works as a psychiatrist and a psychotherapist. And her protagonist, Ouida, in this novel, is a successful Afghan Dutch psychiatrist who moved to the Netherlands as a young woman. She finished medical school. She learned Dutch very quickly. She is successful. She's disciplined. She has settled into her life in Europe and the Netherlands. But this existence will be upended when she receives news of a very close childhood friend of hers back in Afghanistan, a girl she grew up with who was like a sister to her, who has asked for her help. And at the beginning of the novel, we understand that Ouida is about to embark on a road trip, if you like, with a Dutch journalist who is working on a report about Afghan refugees in the Netherlands. And Ouida, for a long time, was very reluctant to go on this journey. And we understand that this news from her, from Afghanistan, from her friend, has encouraged her to um, delve into her past, if you like, and go and embark on this road trip. Margot is a young Dutch journalist who is thrilled to have the chance to, interview Afghan refugees, and Ouida puts into her in touch with distant and not so distant family members, friends, and they embark on this road trip through Germany, and as they head to Athens. Um, and along the way, Ouida has to listen to these interviews with these friends and family, and despite herself, has to really look back and delve into her past, something she has been avoiding for all these years. The novel is told in alternate chapters, so we then go with Ouida into childhood chapters when she's living in Kabul with her family. 1980s Kabul as the Soviets were withdrawing, the siege of the city, and so they're living through bombings at night and also in the day. Their area, they have to move several times. Their area is destroyed, and all of this is told through the point of view um, of the young Ouida who's growing up and trying to have, she's a child and curious about the world and has childish passions and interests at that time, and gripes and grievances with her family. But this is the existence of someone, yes, in a wartime city. And so we really get a sense of this childhood growing up. And also what eventually happens is that Ouida leaves Afghanistan via Moscow, via Ukraine, via Egypt before settling in the Netherlands. And so it really is a story about a literal journey, a literal physical road trip from Amsterdam to Athens, but also a journey back into this woman's past, where she really has to um, cope with and confront her survivor's guilt, confront her past, really accept that also not everything can be her fault. She can't help everybody. And so ultimately she has to she has to be at peace with herself in terms of moving ahead. So it's an extremely powerful novel. The flashback chapters are incredibly evocative. At the same time, you have this child's point of view of these events. And so I loved personally that combination of a young girl growing up as any young girl would, with all of the favorite toys or not wanting to do homework or all that kind of thing, against this backdrop, this very real backdrop in Kabul in Afghanistan at that time. Why this beautiful cover and the owl is because her childhood nickname is Little Owl of Ouida's, and also that her grandmother believes that owls represent death, and if you see an owl in the garden or around, that someone is going to die. And there is an element of, from her childhood, Ouida sensing that she is responsible for other people's well-being and even death. Her father has disappeared. No, they never had a funeral. They don't ever know where he went. And there is that sense in the family that she is cursed in some way and that she brought this on. So the owl in particular on this cover is a very powerful symbol of this character throughout the novel. It is absolutely stunning. As I say, the reception in the Netherlands already has been exceptional. Again, I think it really is that urgent reminder of the power of fiction. All translation rights are available, and there is an English sample, AI sample of about 100 pages, I believe, to read. And there is also funding for Dutch translations. So I will put all of the details in the email, but do take a look at that, and we're incredibly proud to represent Farouk's work for Meridian. So that's the second really important title that we are going to be highlighting at Frankfurt. I just want to move on now to the recap, as I said, of recent titles. I'm going to do this in a very short, sharp and sweet, but it's just to remind you, just so you have the covers in mind. So first up, we have Priya Hines' Tamarin, which came out in English this week with Indigo Press in the UK. The stunning new novel by a prize-winning Mauritian writer. Her first novel was called Riambel, and she has some option publishers, but we're still looking for other translation publishers. Again, all details will be in the email, but this is absolutely stunning. And a detail I want to mention for translation publishers is that it is slim, as was Riambel. So I know that always is an important detail. So do check out that novel. Then we have Bhavika Goville's Hot Water. This beautiful edition, this is a hardback edition here from HarperCollins India, as you can see, with beautiful flaps. This came out earlier this year with HarperCollins India. And the news on this is that Jacaranda Books have just acquired World English Language, excluding India. And they will be publishing next year, 2026, as a lead title. Rights sold very quickly in a preempt to La Martiniere in France. And otherwise, all other translation rights are available. This was a top 10 Asian age bestseller, a Vogue India 2025 book recommendation. It's a three-voiced coming-of-age story, and it's for readers of The God of Small Things and Swimming in the Dark. So there we go, the 2-second pitch on that one. It is stunning, and you can see the beautiful cover there. Next up, another novel that came out just before the summer is Marcia Hutchinson's The Mercy Step. Marcia Hutchinson is a 62-year-old debut author published by Cassava Republic Press. The Mercy Step was an Observer Best Debut for 2025, and this is for fans of Kit Duvall's My Name is Leon, the unvarnished childhood stories and narrative of Roddy Doyle or Toni Morrison. The voice is absolutely stunning, and I think that Marcia has got a fantastic career ahead of her, full of energy. She's a Zumba teacher by day and a writer by night. Really somebody to watch. So that's there. I also wanted to just mention, of course, she doesn't need any introduction, but Dolores Redondo, best-selling and queen of mystic noir author, of course, instant number one bestseller for Destino, A Planeta in Spanish this year, and already over 300,000 copies sold. I just wanted to mention, of course, Dolores does have a number of option publishers, but we are seeking to place her with a new English language publisher. Nash is part of a new interlinked quartet of novels, and we'd really like to talk to English language publishers about finding her a new home in the long term. So do be in touch about that, and I can give you more information. Then we have Gustavo Rodriguez' new novel, Mamita. This is the new stunning novel from the winner of the 2023 Alfaguara Prize. And the latest news on this is that World English rights were bought by Charco Press, sorry. He does have some other option publishers, which I'll put the information in the email, but we are also seeking, there are a number of territories where we're seeking rights there. So that has just come out as well. Moving on to French language, this is the stunning cover of Myriam Cherous's The Prophecy of the Birds. This was sold to Le Soir Venu and is going to be published for the winter literary season in France, so January 2026. And this is, for those of you who read Kazuo Ishiguro's The Buried Giant, this is a French contemporary fable, a love story, an adventure story with a fantastically nuanced and intriguing and fascinating heroine at the heart of it. And this cover, I think, really does give a fantastic sense of it. It's a reimagined Middle Ages context in which she has really written a stunning contemporary fable. So I highly recommend that. All translation rights are currently available. We've just gone out on submission, and there is a short translated sample in English from literary translator Alice Banks. So do get in touch with that about that if you're interested. And we'll hope to have more news on her very soon in terms of other rights deals. Um, Here we have Donica Mahazian's Born at the End of the World. This will be published by Catalyst Press in the US in early 2026. And this is an incredibly, again, a novel, but very much inspired by the true story of the author, who was born in the Ethiopian prison known as Born at the End of the World, or at the end of the world. And she is the child in this story who was born there. And it's the incredible story of her parents who met in the resistance movement in Ethiopia, and the story of their life together. And it really is a story about when ordinary people are put into extraordinary circumstances and how they react to survive. It is incredibly powerful, and this cover, I think, really is stunning. And so that's coming out of Catalyst Press in the US, and all translation rights are available, as well as film and TV. This is another cover we've just had come in. This is for Mubanga Kalimamkwento's The Shipikisha Club. This novel won the Dzanc Prize for Fiction last year, and it'll be coming out with Dzanc Books in early 2026. Um, Rights have already sold in the UK and Commonwealth to Cassava Republic Press. She'll be published in South Africa by Jacana Media. And this is, again, a novel we're very excited about. We've sold rights in preempts in France and Italy. And Mubanga, who is an already published short story writer, poet, this is her latest novel, which is a courtroom drama set in Zambia, but that speaks to women and women's rights all over the world. And it's a combination of stunning language, stunning control at the line level on the page, and a cracking courtroom drama, page turning tension. So it really is a very special one as well. And we've just had this cover in. So that's another one. As I said, there are certain translation rights that have been sold. Again, we'll put the details in the email, but we are really hoping as well to sell more translation rights for her. And last but not least, I have some very exciting news about our author, Ika Kerner-One. Firstly, I want to show you these stunning covers for his latest book, his novella, The Dog Meows, the Cat Barks. This is the Pushkin UK cover, and this is the US cover. We've just had those come in, and I'm very pleased to say that Ika is on the verge of completing his newest full-length novel. We'll give you more details shortly, but that is really exciting news. So delivering imminently, we're hoping to have an English sample, if not more, several chapters translated from his translator Annie Tucker by the end of the year. And that we will be obviously in touch with his option publishers, but internationally, of course, he is published widely. And I know a number of you are waiting for his next novel. So I'm very pleased to confirm that it is on its way, and the provisional title in English is The Smear. So we'll give you more information about that very soon. And I think that's just about it from me. I hope this was helpful to you. I did whip through those last titles, but I just wanted to give you an overall recap on what's happening at Pontas and the latest titles. So if you want any more, more detailed information about any of those, do get in touch with us. Anna and I will be in Frankfurt. Tables 20, well, my table is 22I and Anna's is just next to mine. So if we don't have a meeting together, do feel free to pop by And if, of course, you're in Paris or Barcelona at any time soon, do please look us up. We'd love to see you. So thank you very much. Good luck with Frankfurt prep, and I'll look forward to being in touch very soon. Thank you very much. Bye.